Hi, everybody, and welcome to our podcast. I'm very excited about this one because we're talking about one of our three key pillars of what the RVRA does, that is advocacy, information, and support. So today we're talking about information and in particular our flagship, the Education Centre. And who better to join me than the chair of our Education Centre, Diane Hart. Diane, welcome.
Thank you, Roger. And take it away.
I think Diane, you and I are probably the longest serving members on the board.
Yeah, I don't like to go into that.
No.
It's been a long time.
and I think when we started, the Education Centre wasn't there. So can you tell us how that came about and what is the purpose of the Education Centre?
When I joined the board about 6 or 7 years ago, actually, it was one of these things that they were talking about at the time. So at the end of 2022, we actually applied for a grant to establish the Education Centre. And it was a grant that we got from New South Wales Government. And we've had 3 since then, or 3 altogether, 1-year grants. And that was for the Education Centre, to establish the Education Centre and to provide resources for retirement village residents. Not just our members, but for all retirement village residents, which was very important.
Yeah, thank you, Diane. So tell us a bit more about what the purpose of the Education Centre is.
These, as I say, are resources to be available to all New South Wales retirement village residents, and they are to help to answer the questions that residents have on living in a retirement village. So things like legislative changes, the understanding management processes, particularly things like budgets and maintenance, residents' rights and responsibilities, which are very important. So what are their rights under the legislation, their constitution, if they've got one in the village, and of course the village rules and their own contract, very important. So we deliver both online and face-to-face. And we share insights also with the sector, which is very important as well.
Yeah, thank you, Diane. So if I was a resident or a residents committee member, and if I got on the website, what sort of specific information could I find?
We use varied media for our resources. We've got to remember when we're educating people who they are. And we're looking at older people. Some of them are visually impaired. They learn in different ways. And there are lots of language and cultural differences as well. So you've also got people who are not happy with technology. So we've got to cater for all of those people. And we do so using a lot of varied media, such as the written resource sheets and guides, things in plain English, videos and webinars, which are quite important. The webinars and videos all have captions so that people can read as they watch. And we do face-to-face village visits and workshops. So those are all very important. So if you visit our website, which is www.rvra.org.au /education, if you go straight to the education section, we started looking, first of all, with our first 2 grants at residents' committees. Residents' committees can make or break a village. Residents' committee can be very, very important in establishing the culture of a village, in making sure that residents have that conduit between themselves and the management going through the residents' committee. But they can also cause a lot of problems. For example, they can not understand what their roles are. And so we looked at this. We got a lot of inquiries from our own members. So we knew that residents' committees were very important, and that's what we started with. So we have short videos and accompanying resource sheets. Now, the videos are around about 6 to 10 minutes long. So For example, the residents committee ones, we're looking at the benefits of establishing a residents committee, the establishment of a residents committee, how do you actually do it, the roles and responsibilities of a residents committee, and we have a couple of webinars as well on problems, etc. That's a good starting point. And the third grant, which we've just completed, we looked at finances. So what we've put up on the web in the last couple of weeks, in fact, is a plain English guide to village finances. We have video series and resource sheets on the costs of entering, the ongoing costs and the exit costs when you're leaving a village. We also have webinars, understanding village finances, and for somebody who's considering moving into a retirement village, there's a series on life in a retirement village. There are 3 videos. Why do you choose a retirement village? The factors, perhaps, when you're moving into a retirement village, what are you thinking about? What exactly are the factors that influence your choice, such as staying in your local area, or perhaps making sure that you're near your children, and then understanding your village contract, which is very important. The number of residents who don't understand their contract and don't get a solicitor to have a look at it, in fact, when they are moving into a village. There's quite a lot of problems concerned with that.
Yeah, very comprehensive, Diane. Of course, don't forget podcasts. We're now delving into the world of podcasts, sharing the information by that way. Now, you spoke earlier about these 1-year grants. Now, you and I have been involved in every one of those, and when we come to put in those grants every year, it's a bit of a slog. So we burn the midnight oil and we get the grantage. So I'm going to do a little drum roll here. There's a drum roll for you. That we have just successfully got a grant from Fair Trading for 5 years, a 5-year grant, which is unbelievably fantastic because that gives us tenure, it gives us certainty, and it gives us a lot of scope where we can actually do things without worrying about where next year's money is going to come from. And I have to say, without declaring the amount, that the increase in the funding was quite significant. So again, it's going to give us huge scope to do things. So Diane, what are some of the things that we're looking at doing?
It's wonderful, isn't it? Whole 5 years. And the things that we can do are legion. They really are. However, it's obvious from some of the research that we've done that communication is very important. Communication in the retirement village itself, communication between the residents committee and the manager, the residents committee and the residents, very important. But the problem with communications is that a lot of people don't know how to argue respectfully. Respectful dialogue is very important. And also things like meeting procedures, quite important to know how to run a meeting or how to participate in a meeting. Now that leads very nicely into dispute resolution procedures. The best run village will have the odd dispute arise. And knowing where to go and how they work is very important for the residents themselves. How do you make a complaint, for example? I think it's something that a lot of people have difficulty with. Who do you complain to? And what happens if your complaint falls on deaf ears? So we're going to look at those. We'll also expand the sections that we have on resident rights and obligations, looking at the regulation and the regulations of the village rules and contracts, expand our resources relating to elder abuse. And above all of that, I think we've got to improve the RVRA's communications, our own communications. So improving our website, making sure that it's acceptably accessible for people who are visually impaired, older residents, people who perhaps have difficulty with their hearing, our monthly bulletin. We've just been updating it into a flipbooks format, and we also have the monthly bulletin in a PDF as well, so that people can download it from the web.
So Diane, Diane, just jumping in because, we do have a time limit on this and,
oh yeah, look, I go on for ages. Sorry.
But for all of us, the grant it opens up all the doors.
It
We'll
does.
be able to do a lot more training. We'll be able to do a lot more visits. We'll be able to expand our reach in a lot of areas, and we'll be able to advocate in a higher direction without worrying about, can we get there? Can we afford it? Can we do that? So we're going to wind it up, Diane. So look, thank you very much for your wonderful, wonderful insights as always. And just say to people watching, thank you. Get on our website, have a look. You will find some interesting stuff there. Don't forget rvra.org.au and you'll get all the information you need. And if not, call our admin people and they'll steer you in the right direction. Thank you for watching. Take care.